Good evening. My name is Cheryl Blaylock, and I'm Executive Director for Lamplighters Music Theatre. I've been in this position for 7 years now, 7th season, and it's a great joy and a privilege. This company is 71 years old. We are the oldest theater company in San Francisco, and we are the 4th oldest performing arts organization in San Francisco. So that's quite, the only ones that are older are San Francisco Opera, San Francisco Symphony, and the ballet. So that's quite a lot, right? We're rather proud of that. So founded in 1952, and we've actually had a union orchestra since 1971. So we grew within those almost 20 years, 19 years, from the 2-piano version of doing shows to doing something with professional orchestra. And then in 2020, after the shutdown, we created a whole new brand, which is our second brand, and that is LMT Multimedia. Is anybody in here a member of our Patreon? I see a few. Yay, thank you. Good. Have any of you, if you're not a member of Patreon, have you seen any of our streams? Oh, good. A few more. All right, excellent. So we have been streaming 11 months out of the year since July of 2020. And some of the founders of that program are in this room. And the new leader of that program is in this room. So we're very excited about that. I'd be happy to tell you more about Patreon afterwards. We've got some flyers out in the front and out here. It's a monthly stream of our archival videos, but the months when we're doing a show, we will actually broadcast one of those shows. And we've been doing that since 21 also. So our goal is to be accessible. So anybody who is afraid to go to the theater, doesn't want to go to the theater, illness, whatever, you can watch us from home. We have people who watch us from the UK and from Australia. It's really fun when I'm doing the chats on our live streams, and there's somebody who always comes on saying, hello from Sydney. It's quite fun. So Lamplighters' mission statement is to be the premier producer of the art of Gilbert and Sullivan, as well as other compositions of comparable wit, eloquence, and musicality. So how does that work? First of all, we are known, first and foremost, as a Gilbert and Sullivan company. In fact, we are known internationally as one of the best in the world. We have won several competitions, not just locally, but the International Gilbert and Sullivan Society and competition in Buxton, England, which is not a huge city, but it is the home of the international competition for this art that we do. We've won that in Buxton and again in Berkeley, right? So we're very proud of that. We're known for our high standards and being true to the art. That's always been at the core, is to be true to the craft. However, we've gradually edited or enhanced works through different eras. For example, probably the first one that we reworked substantially was in 1989 when we reworked Princess Ida. Princess Ida has an ending that is highly problematic because the poem of Tennyson is extolling this wonderful princess and her love of education and the school for women that she's established. But Gilbert decided to skewer it, and at the end of Ida, he has her giving up everything for love, which even in 1989 wasn't so great, and now it's even less great for what people think, right? So we have a different ending, and our Ida has really been very, very well received because Ida has agency. I was going to show you a trailer now and it was our first video trailer from when we did Ida in 2020.
LMT Multimedia is pleased to present Lamplighters' 2020 production of Gilbert and Sullivan's Princess Ida, directed by Barbara Hero. Prince Hilarion has been looking forward to his upcoming marriage to Princess Ida since their childhood betrothal. The princess has other ideas and has forsworn the company of men in favor of founding an all-women's university. It's up to Hilarion to infiltrate the school and woo the princess, and up to the princess to decide what matters more, her aspirations or her happiness. Lamplighters' interpretation of Princess Ida stays true as possible to the original, while deftly shifting the balance of power to the heroic leading lady, portraying her as a woman ahead of her time, facing her undeniable attraction to a man who is in every way her equal. The performance will be broadcast to YouTube on Sunday, January 22nd at 4 p.m. Pacific Time. Sliding scale tickets can be purchased by visiting lmt.lamplighters.org/streamtickets. The performance will be available on demand for 30 days to our $10 and $15 Patreon subscribers. For more information, please visit lmt.lamplighters.org/Patreon.
And one thing I did learn in 2020 was we performed at YBCA on Super Bowl Sunday when we were in the Super Bowl. So this year we are not doing that. I had a feeling, you know? I just really had a feeling. Unfortunately, we're performing on Lunar New Year Day, the parade, but you know, anyway, you can't win, right? Okay, so the next thing that we did, why did we do that? I told you that it was about women's roles and agency and updating, and there have been other times that other works have been updated through the years because of racial things. I mean, there was substantial use of the N-word in the original works, which obviously we wouldn't be using today. Then the next major change that happened that had to do with fairness was we updated the MIKADO. It is now called Il Ducato, or the new MIKADO. We changed it in 2016, and it was in response to very specific threats. We would have lost our license to perform in San Francisco had we left it in its original form. And if you look at it, it is an issue. It makes fun of one race, not just social mores, and it also had people in yellowface who were appropriating those costumes and so forth. It doesn't offend everybody because really Gilbert and Sullivan were making comments about society in general, but it definitely offended a specific population. And so our version now is set in Italy, and the Italians haven't been mad at us, so I'm really glad about that. All right.
Wandering minstrel, I, a thing of shreds and patches, a ballad songs and snatches, and dreamy lullaby.
As someday it may happen that a victim must be found, I've got a little list.
Read the maids of all the very company ladies seminary.
My object on sublime, I shall achieve with time, to let the punishment fit the crime, the punishment fit the crime.
Okay. We did Il Ducato again last summer, and Jennifer Mitchell was our wonderful Amiam, which is the new version of Yum Yum. And right now she's going to perform The Sun Who's Raised from the MIKADO, or Il Ducato.
So for those of you who may have not seen the MIKADO or Il Ducato, this is Amyam's aria in the second act. She has just been dressed by her. We kind of treated them like sisters. I don't think that Pizzi and Pifa are technically her sisters, but they go to boarding school together, and all of the ladies have been helping her get ready for her wedding. And Amyam is a very ambitious young lady, I think, and she also thinks highly of herself. And given the opportunity to see her pre-wedding look in the mirror, she's very pleased with it, and also has some reflections on what she wants out of her life that is not just matrimony. Observe his flame, that placid dame, the moon's celestial highness. There's not a trace upon her face of diffidence or shyness. She borrows a light that through the night and can be all I claim her. And truth to tell, she lights up well, so I for one don't blame her. Ah, pray make no mistake, we are not shy. We very wide awake, the moon and night. Ah, pray make no mistake, we are not shy. We're very wide awake, the moon and I.
Thank you, Jennifer. And accompanying her is Brett Strader. Brett is our new resident music director, and he is our LMT multimedia director. So he is leading our efforts as we continue to expand what we're doing online. I was trying to lead a group of people and try to scratch my head and know, I mean, I'm a singer, I'm not a technical person, and I'm so happy to have Brett as both a musician and a wonderful technical person working with us. So, yes, yeah, very, very happy. And new is like August, so definitely new. Okay. All right. So we made changes that had to do with women's agency, with language, with an entire issue that was harmful as far as towards a people. Now, we're about to do a new production that is changed, but not for those reasons. It is changed to be more inclusive and to add to, without detracting at all, a wonderful work, one that I adore. It's the first show I was ever in, the first Gilbert and Sullivan, the first time ever I was on stage was RUDDY-GORE, 1982, with the Lamplighters. We are going to be doing in February in San Francisco and in March in Mountain View, RUDDY-GORE, or the Bruja's Curse, rather than the Witch's Curse. And this is a wonderful new concept by our stage director, Davi Yoresti. We'll have him come and share. All right?
Hi, everyone. My name is David Uresti. Everybody calls me Davi. I am the stage, as Cheryl mentioned, I'm the stage director for Lamplighters Music Theater's RUDDY-GORE. And I'm the one who came up with this crazy concept of that I'm about to tell you. I did want to share with you a little bit of details about how I came up with the concept. The concept is we're moving the show to Mexico. Just to give you a little background on myself, I directed I directed my very first show back in 2002. And since then, I've directed many, many Gilbert and Sullivan shows, including some concept ones. I did a MIKADO where we took it to a more fantasy land of the anime style. And then we did a sorcerer where we moved it to India and we added Bollywood dancing to it. That was a lot of fun. We moved the show to Victorian India. Half the cast was British, half the cast was Indian. We hired a choreographer. Everybody learned Bollywood dances. It was a lot of fun. So I was born and raised in Mexico City. And for the longest time, I'd been wanting to figure out how to set a show in Mexico. I thought it would be fun, kind of similar to Bollywood. RUDDY-GORE it's written as a parody of melodrama. And so melodrama, you think about it for a little bit, and I go, oh, that's kind of like the telenovelas I used to watch when I was way too young to be watching telenovelas. And so can we just move the show straight into Mexico? And as I was thinking about it, unlike India, there is no real, there's no British influence in Mexico. It's not a Commonwealth nation. It's not like, something that it was there. But then I remembered a small town in Mexico. It's a town that very oddly sells these things called pastes, which look just like Cornish pasties. And then as you walk around this little town, which you'll notice that the roofs, instead of being the typical flat roofs of Mexican towns, they have angled roofs, like they have in England. And then if you walk around the town, it's an old mining town. You might stumble upon this place that's called the English Cemetery, and it's like, what is going on in this town? The town is called Real del Monte. It is in central Mexico. So I decided to look up its history. And so the history is in the 1820s, there were mines there that had been mined by the Spanish, basically, because it was 1820s was around the independence of Mexico. They've been mined and they had been abandoned because they were filled with water. And then the new Mexican government, as it came up, they're like, hey, can we get someone to mine these? They can make some money. And they contacted a British company who decided to, yeah, we can do this. We're going to bring our engines, our steam engines, and like do all these things. We're going to pump out all the water. We're going to start mining it. So they came along. 650 Cornish miners all moved to Mexico, and they redeveloped the town, which had been abandoned. And they operated as a British company for like 30, 40 years until they declared a failure. But all those Cornish people were already there, so they settled. They brought so many new things to Mexico. They brought their Cornish pasties. They brought their rooftops. They even brought soccer to Mexico. Football, thank you. So then as I was thinking about RUDDY-GORE, I said, well, where is RUDDY-GORE set? And so I like pulled out the script and I looked at it and I'm like, it's set in Cornwall, the same place where these miners that came from here to Real del Monte. So now I had a town in Mexico where not just British people lived, but people from the same area that Gilbert was writing about. So I thought it was a match made in heaven. I found a book with the history of the town, and they have a museum dedicated to the pasties, and and they have an annual pastis, yes, and they had an annual. That's my daughter, and they have an annual competition where all these chefs come from different areas, and even then Prince Charles came to visit back in 2014.
Year before I was born.
Thank you. So, but when you transport a show to a new place, you don't just want to like build a set of a new place and leave it at that. You got to intermingle, the two cultures. You got to bring it together. So I wanted the show to feel more Mexican, and some things were obvious. In RUDDY-GORE, you've got ghostly ancestors that show up to basically torture one of the guys. And so I thought, well, Dia de Muertos is very popular in Mexico. That's the Day of the Dead. We should have, we should use that for the show. So we're going to have several of our ghosts will have the skull makeup that you often see during that time. We're also adding folklorico dancing. We found a fantastic choreographer who has been teaching our ladies and some of our men to do the type of folklorico dancing that you see a lot in Mexico, and obviously here too. Yes, and it's interesting to merge the two because Sullivan's music is interestingly slower than most folklorico music is, and the other thing that I've learned is that folklorico music is about like toes hitting or feet hitting the floor a lot, and the orchestra probably does not like how much the banging on the floor happens. But it's been an interesting challenge to put these two together. Finally, on a personal note, I've actually visited this town back when I was a small kid because my father was a mining engineer. Yeah. And so he was actually hired by basically the Mexican government. Back then, the Mexican government owned all the mines to run the mines at Real del Monte back in the 80s. So he worked there for a year and a half, and he would live there, and we would go out to visit him during the weekends and stuff like that. Yeah. I had a picture of me looking very cute as a little 10-year-old boy with the mines behind me. Sister. Yes, and my sister is there too. That's what I have. I hope the show will be a lot of fun and that several of you will be able to come and see it. Yes. Thank you.
And And so we have a couple of excerpts from RUDDY-GORE that we'd love to share with you. Sabrina Romero Wilson is our soprano, who is Rosa. You have to give the full, I don't remember the whole name. I'll let you do it.
Rosa Capullo de Mayo?
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you.
So instead of Rosa Maybud, it's Rosa Capullo de Mayo. You'll hear the full name in the show, so stay tuned for that. So right before this aria, if somebody there chanced to be, Rosa has just spoken with Donna Ana, who is her aunt, who is also the one that's in charge of the, I believe, finishing school in the town. So not necessarily my aunt, but someone that I very much love and has adopted me as her own. And she has just asked me, well, isn't there somebody in the town that you could love yourself? And I'm like, no, I mean, these are all trivial men, and I have to follow my book of etiquette. This is how I live by the book, my life. And she also mentions someone named Robin, who you will meet next after this aria. And this is when Rosa starts to think that maybe she could start to think outside of the book, and perhaps that should not be her way of life. So this is If Somebody There Chanced to Be. Little did the good soul think when she breathed the hallowed name of Robin, that he would do even as in this village, and that he is unduly bashful in my presence. And lo, it is hard to bring him to the point. But soft, he is here.
Senorita Rosa.
Senor Robin.
I wish to say that it is fine.
It is passing fine.
But we do want rain.
Si, sorry. Is that all?
That is all.
Buen dia, Senor Robin.
Buen dia, Senorita Rosa. I beg pardon.
You were about to say?
I would fain consult you.
Truly?
It is about a friend.
In truth, I have a friend myself.
Oh, indeed. I mean, of course.
And I would fain consult you.
About him?
About her.
Let us consult one another.
I know a youth who loves a little maid, hey, but his face is a sight for to see. Silent is he, for he's modest and afraid, hey, but he's timid as a youth can be.
I know a maid who loves a gallant youth, hey, but she sickens as the days go by. She cannot tell him all the sad truth, hey, but I think that little maid will die.
Poor little man,
Poor little maid,
poor little man.
poor little maid.
Now tell me, pray, and tell me true, what in the world should the young man do? He cannot eat and he cannot sleep, hey, but his face is a sight for to see. Daily he goes for to wail, for to weep, hey, but he's wretched as a youth can be.
She's very thin and she's very pale, hey, but she sickens as the days go by. Daily she goes for to weep, for to wail, hey, but I think that little maid will die.
Poor little maid,
Poor little man,
poor little maid.
poor little man.
Oh, tell me, pray, and tell me true, what in the world should the young man do?
If I were the youth, I should offer her my name. Hey, but her face is a sight for to see.
If I were the maid, I should fan his honest flame. Hey, but he's bashful as a youth can be.
If I were the youth, I should speak to her today. Hey, but she sickens as the days go by.
If I were the maid, I should meet the lad halfway. For I really do believe the timid youth will die.
Poor little man,
Poor little maid,
poor little man.
poor little maid. I thank you, miss, for your counsel true. I'll tell that you what she ought to do.
And that is Noah Evans, who we're singing Robin, the secret bad guy in the show. So have to come and see what all transpires. So Lamplighters, in addition to doing Gilbert and Sullivan, has done several non-Gilbert and Sullivan productions. I mean, after all, Gilbert and Sullivan wrote a grand total of 14 pieces, one of which is not finished. So 13 can be done, and 2 of those are not that good. So do not quote me outside of this room. No, please. They're flawed, but 11 of them are total gems. But you can't do 11 shows for 71 years over and over again when you're doing 3 or 4 shows a year, right? So since the 70s, Lamplighters also performed a lot of other operettas, such as Die Fledermaus, Merry Widow, Countess Maritza, The Student Prince, La Belle Hélène, Offenbach, Strauss, Lehar, wonderful works that really were the bridge, if you will, between opera and musicals. So these were all works that were done between like the 1880s and about the 19-teens or 1920s. Then, starting in the 80s, Lamplighters added classic Broadway musicals to their repertoire. Now, you will never see us doing...
Cats.
Yeah, right, Cats. Probably not The Lion King, you know. Yeah, you won't see us doing any of those. But you will have seen us do Something's Afoot, Where's Charlie, My Fair Lady, Hello Dolly, The Secret Garden, A Little Night Music, some really wonderful, and of course with A Little Night Music, Sondheim being all about words, it fits perfectly with Gilbert, who is all about words, right? So those have been very, very popular for us. And even more recently, we've started to augment these classic musicals with some newer works. But generally, you'll find that the work that we do is around the Victorian or Edwardian era in its setting. Maybe not in the music, but in its setting.
LMT Multimedia is pleased to present the 2022 production of A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder, directed by Michael Muhammad and conducted by Brett Strader.
For those of you of weaker constitution.
After the death of his mother, low-born Monty Navarro finds out that he's 8th in line for an earldom in the lofty Dysquith family.
You're a Dysquith, you're a D''Y squith.
Once he is dismissed by the ruling lord as a direct relative, Monty sets off to ensure his sought-out title, albeit one Dysquith funeral at a time. Meanwhile, though Monty is courting the social climbing Sibella Hallward,
Didn't you just love me in pink?
he also finds himself romantically drawn to one of the victim's sisters, Phoebe Dysquith, along his egregious path to earldom.
I decided to marry you. I decided to marry you. Kingdom the Barrow.
Will Monty get away with murder and become the 9th Earl of Highhurst? And will he end up winning the heart of Sibella or Phoebe? The performance will be broadcast on Sunday, March 19th at 4 p.m. Pacific Time.
I don't understand the poor. It's better with a man.
Tickets can be purchased by visiting lmt.lamplighters.org/stream-tickets. The performance will be available on demand to our $10 and $15 Patreon subscribers. For more information, please visit lmt.lamplighters.org/Patreon.
Okay, so right now we'd like to introduce Brett, have him come on board and talk to some of the music that we're going to do for musicals now.
Yeah, thanks, Cheryl.
Uh-huh.
Thank you. Before I begin talking about Gentleman's Guide and other musicals, I just want to say I'm happy to be here. I'm actually a former neighbor of yours. I lived in Menlo Park for a number of years. I was actually the choir director at what used to be called Menlo Park Presbyterian Church. I was there for about 7 years. And then I've also, since then, in the last few years, I've musical directed for your own Woodside Musical Theatre Company twice. I did Spamalot, and I did Bright Star year. I wasn't able to do the one this last year because I was working with Lamplighters on their show. So anyway, I have a great relevant affinity for this area and all that, so it's great to be back. My first encounter with Lamplighters was actually around the time I started working at Menlo Pres. And it's a long story, I won't bore you with it, but kind of a chance encounter with a great director her name back then was Jane Hammett. We just wound up meeting at a rehearsal, and she had been hired to be the director of The Secret Garden. at Lamplighters. And I had never heard of Lamplighters. I had just moved to the area. And she must have seen something in me, and she said, you know, who are you, where are you from? And I told her my background, and I have a strong background in classic Broadway or musical theater. And I had back then less of a background in Gilbert and Sullivan. She said, well, we're doing this musical called The Secret Garden. Have you ever heard of it? And I was like, I love that musical. I know it very well. So I interviewed with Lamplighters, and I got to conduct. It was my first conducting job in San Francisco. Was working with the Lamplighters. And fast forward 16 years later, she and I came on at the same time. She is now our new artistic director. So it's this wonderful symmetry that we met back then, and we get to continue on our partnership. So I conducted a number of shows with Lamplighters over the years, but took a bit of a hiatus, and I came back in 2022 to do Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder, which was a new musical to me, a relatively newly written one. And it's an Edwardian farce of sorts, and it's basically this crazy story of a guy who finds out that he's the long-lost heir to the fortune of the Dicewith family. And he finds out there's 8, is it 7 or 8? I can't remember. 8. There's 8 Dicewiths that are ahead of him from taking over the family fortune, and so he hatches a plan to execute or murder them all in order, so that he can. His name is Monty, and Monty Navarro, and it would take too long to explain the whole plot, but there's lots and lots of twists and turns, and there's a love triangle. You call yourselves the thruple, right?
Thruple,
the thruple, yes. Yeah. So Jennifer Mitchell played Phoebe, who is the ingenue, what's her name? I lost it.
Sabella.
Sabella was played by
Leslie Catter,
thank you. Yeah, and she's sort of the vampy, you know. Well, I won't say what she was, but anyway, this. Well, she's fabulous. Jennifer's going to sing an excerpt from the trio called "I've Decided to Marry You," and this is more of the love triangle where Monty and Sabella and Phoebe sing to each other, and it's staged in a way that is comic, and they're not seeing each other, and you know, behind doors and all that sort of funny stuff. So in the end, Monty, he does kill 7 of them, I think, but he doesn't actually kill the 7th one, and so he gets away with murder and inherits and he marries Phoebe. So it's
And my little bit of backstory. So first of all, one of the things I love about Phoebe is that she is an ingenue, which, for those of you who are familiar with classical musical theater, the soprano types don't usually get to be very bright. But Phoebe loves to read, she's a smart gal, and when her uncle, who is her guardian, dies, she decides that she's going to take control of her fate. And so, this little opening section of this trio is her taking charge of her fate moment.
Mr. Navarro, forgive my intrusion. I needed to see you, and see you today. Mr. Navarro, I have arrived at a stunning conclusion, and I fear I would lose my resolve if I didn't come here directly to say I've decided to marry you. I've decided to marry you. I've decided, though Henry's gone, that life goes on for me. I have thoroughly thought it through, and the man that I want is you. Though it's true there are quite a few that strongly disagree. Nonetheless, I will marry you. I'll confess that I'm frightened too. But unless I am wrong, you long for love as much as I. This is quite unconventional, I admit, but why should the matter a whit? And if you do not say yes at once, I think I'll die.
In the same vein of doing modern musicals, we are, this May, we're going to mount a production of The Mystery of Edwin Drood, which is a really fantastic musical. It was written in the early 80s by Rupert Holmes, who's a famous songwriter, and he just woke up one day and somebody said, you should write a musical. And so not only did he write the music for the musical, write all the songs, he wrote the book, the story, the lyrics, and he also orchestrated the whole show himself. And for example, Andrew Lloyd Webber only writes the music, doesn't write the lyrics. Stephen Schwartz writes the music and the words, doesn't orchestrate. doesn't write the book usually. Stephen Sondheim only writes the music and the lyrics. This guy wrote everything, and it's it's a pretty remarkable play because you need that collaboration between multiple people to have really great art come out. But in this case, he was very successful. So we've been planning. Lamplighters been planning to do this since before COVID. Then we stopped it and we brought it back. And it's Charles Dickens's his last novel that he never finished, and so it's a murder mystery. So we never know who the murderer is, or if a murder actually ever happened. And so so Rupert really brilliantly set this in an English music hall. So all of the actors are playing actor roles, and then those actors in turn play roles in the play. And so you get to see this set up that way. And then in the second act, the audience is pulled, and you get to vote on who the murderer actually was. And so there's multiple endings, and it's pretty complicated. There's musical numbers like number 22 B and C and F and G, and it's like the Academy Awards where you have to go, who won the award, so the orchestra knows what soundtrack to play. So and we haven't started production yet. We're starting in March, and it'll be interesting to see. Our director is Jane Irwin, or Jane Hammett Irwin. So she's cooking up a great idea for how the audience will get to decide. And it's never rigged. Some companies will rig it, so that all the actors get a chance to sing their confession song at the end. But it's more fun to do it live, where everybody in the house gets to see how everyone votes. So we open the first week of May at the Douglas Morrison Theatre in Hayward. It's the first time we're doing a production out there, and it's an amazing theater. It's a huge thrust stage with, they're the only theater in the Bay Area that has a vomitorium. Do you know what a vomitorium is? It's an old, I can't remember if it's Greek or Roman, but basically it's an entrance to the stage from the audience, and it usually comes in from underground. So it's the only theater in the Bay Area that has that. I don't know if we're going to use that for this production, but we opened there for a weekend, and then we moved to the Presidio Theater in San Francisco, and I think our first show we did there was Gentleman's Guide, right? If you haven't been to the Presidio Theater, it's newly renovated. It's one of my favorite venues in San Francisco, and come to one of our, it's worth the trip from here, I promise. And you go up for a matinee, and there's lots of food, and you get to see the Golden Gate Bridge, and it's a really, really wonderful place. So, so come see us in that. But we're going to do two things from this show right now. Noah, we call him Mr. Lamplighters now because he's doing two shows in a row, and he has a bit smaller but not less significant. There are only small actors, no small parts. He plays a character named Bazzard, and I'm not going to go into what Bazzard does, but he has a confession at the end, and he's rarely pegged as the murderer, so this may be the only time he ever gets to sing this song in front of a public. So this is Murderer's Confession, Bazzard.
You see the show, vote for me. I saw the chance to be a legend in my time. For all in town thought Neville might do violent crime. To solve a mystery would pluck me from my shelf. So I ensured the crime by killing Drood myself! Detectives in command might have a case in hand. To gain a claim, their share of fame the public does demand. A controversial crime, perversal, I don't want to tell you more. Well, since I have the floor, young Neville had been crude and Edwin doubly rude. So I set out to bring about the death of Edwin Drood. And it turned out to be this region's hotly common rage. And I know all, I now tell all, at last on central stage. And I tied the knot around his nice neck, and his head was struck nearby. Oh, I saw as he fell down into the muck that finally the luck have I, that finally the luck have I.
Jennifer's going to come up and sing a number. She's not cast in this show because she's so busy. You know, we couldn't cast her. She's got so many other things going on. But we get to hear her sing what I consider to be probably one of the most beautiful songs in the musical theater repertoire. And I'm just going to say that I have the best job in the world. I get to work with these singers, and it just warms my heart and makes me happy to get up every day and work with these wonderful people and make art and music with all of you. So one of my favorite songs and one of my favorite singers. Jennifer's going to sing Moonfall. Oh, the setting for this song, it's a little racy, but the evil Jasper is a music teacher. Of course, the music teacher is the evil guy, and he has Rosa in his studio, and he secretly loves her, and so he writes this really kind of sensual song for her voice, and as she's singing it, she sort of realizes, ooh, this is a little creepy, because he's written this for me. So.
Does that make you want to come see it? In addition to these musicals and Gilbert and Sullivan, for 59 years, Lamplighters has actually created an original show every year where we do the book and the lyrics. Basically, it's a committee, believe it or not, that does it, but they do a wonderful job. We call it the Gala, and it's always set to the music of Sullivan. Some of the most popular ones that we've done are Major General Hospital, Star Trek, Return of the Deadeye, Harry Potter, in the case of the halitosis, the deadly halitosis, Upside Down Abbey, and also Downton Abbey Airbnb. That was really, really popular. All right. And then recently, in 2021, I was saying 1900s up to now. In 2021, Lamplighters created a new works pipeline, and we commissioned our first all-new operetta with the book, the lyrics, and the music all done by a new team. for us, and it was By Georges, A Day in the Life of the Chevalier Saint-Georges. Our goal, we did this last May, and it was very, very well received. It was a hybrid musical style that had a bit of hip-hop and also Baroque styling, and basically was expanding the operetta genre because it was telling the story of the first known classical composer of African descent via a fictionalized day in his life.
And by day and by night I carry this light of many a Mozart could see my life is a dance by choice and by chance between me and aristocracy.
Everyone's to share what stories on the stage. It trickles out beyond the page, and that's why I sing all of
And you will see upon that stage.
I am no philosopher, my form follows fashion. Still I know the ring of truth, your words drip with passion.
It doesn't mean a happy ending, let it not be condescending. For we all long to live inside a story, become a boring daily purgatory. You think I'm not so subtle, allegory, why we must make art. Make art with
It really received a very good critical response. Joshua Kosman, who I think you all know is the classical music critic for the San Francisco Chronicle, raved about it. And he said, in addition to its immediate pleasures, By Georges represents the beginning of an answer to a ticklish question. How long can organizations like Lamplighters, built around the operettas of Gilbert and Sullivan and their few relevant colleagues, such as Strauss and Lehar, continue to thrive on the same small body of work? Lamplighters had the right idea, which is to back the creation of new works that can be added to that pool of possibilities. Hopefully, By Georges will mark the first step in an even broader expansion. And that's what we are trying to do. So, what's next?
Just a little bit. We are going to continue doing the Gilbert and Sullivan canon and treat it with the respect that it deserves. We have this wonderful union orchestra, and we're one of the few companies in the Bay Area that's not the San Francisco Symphony or the Opera that has a union orchestra, a tenured union orchestra, and we'll be doing Gilbert and Sullivan forever. But we're also doing more, Broadway type musicals or the ones that fit our similar wit and eloquence. So we're looking at a lot of Sondheim in our future. I'm a huge Sondheim fan, so we're looking at Sunday in the Park with George. We're looking at Into the Woods, and another show that Jane, my colleague, likes. It's called Triumph of Love. We're looking to program that in the next couple of years. And we're also going to be doing more new works. Yes. New works. I'm a composer myself, and I'm hoping Lamplighters will. In fact, my friend David Larwood is in the back, and he is directly responsible for me becoming a composer. So he can tell you about that later in the future. Surprised to see him come in. I'm very happy about that. Yeah, we have a bright future, and we're looking at more venues throughout the Bay Area, ones that are right sized for the kinds of crowds that we're getting. And the other cool thing that I love about this job, and it was Cheryl's idea to tap into my avocation with all things tech and video and streaming and stuff, and it was a really brilliant idea. So I oversee the Lamplighters Multimedia, but also it's so cool how we have Sabrina here, who is also a founding part of Lamplighters Multimedia And she actually runs it. She runs the meetings because she's really, really good at that.
She's very good at that.
And so she runs our Patreon subscriber, all of this stuff, and then we all collaborate together. We have a great team on the multimedia side of stuff. So what we're doing is we're multi-camera recording all of our shows, which is expensive, technically difficult. We record it in such a way that we can capture it live, but then edit it later to increase. Oh, and Jen is also a founding member of the Lamplighters multimedia team too. So we're capturing it in a way that can be edited later for posterity's sake, and also so we can show it immediately after we do it. We're captioning everything because we really strongly believe in accessibility. And actually, the thing I'm really excited about now is with RUDDY-GORE. This is the first time we're actually going to do two things: live super titles of not just the songs, but also all the dialogue, because we want to make our shows accessible to everybody. I mean, there's so much to see, and if you maybe aren't able to hear as well, you can hear, or you can see what's going on stage and read what's going on. But we're not only just doing that; we're also going to do it translated into Spanish simultaneously. So it's a huge project. And actually, it was somebody from Woodside Theater that I knew, Rosie Izell, who's a great. She is a professional translator and a lover of theater. I met her there, and so we hired her to do the translation. That she's been working with Davi on them, and so that's really, really cool to be able to do a multilingual super title. And when we produce this on video, we'll have multilingual subtitles as well.
I'm going to applaud that. I love that.
It's a crazy amount of work, and if you like spreadsheets, you see what we're doing in the background with all that. And one of the things I love about this company, and Jen is a big part of this, was the attention to detail. When you come see one of our shows, you see it on the stage, you hear it in the music, but it's a part of our culture, and we really, really respect the art so much that you would be aghast at the discussions that go on is that supposed to be an N dash or an M dash, a curly quote, a straight quote, a comma here, or what there, because we want to present, we're talking about captions and supertitles, we want to present these things absolutely as best as we possibly can. And so we have a team of very passionate and dedicated people that have strong opinions, and it's fun to engage with everybody about those things. We'll continue to do this as long as we're around, and we want to make our shows available to everybody in person and online for the future. So
yeah, exactly.
Cool.
So thank you. So thank you so much for having us here. It is the goal of Lamplighters to be moving operetta forward, and you've got a little taste of that tonight, right? We are open to questions. I know it's close to 8, but hopefully if you have any questions, you can ask us now or as we stand and walk around.
So thank you all for coming this evening. Again, we're sorry for the technical difficulties that prevented the projection from working, but we appreciate your patience. And next month, hopefully, technical difficulties will be resolved with the town. And we have Barbara Woods, a local journalist, who's here this evening, who will be talking about the Red Cross and how they handle disasters. So be sure to come back for that. And once again, this program is sponsored every month, the first Friday, by the Woodside Arts and Culture Committee, a group of volunteers who want to present interesting and exciting programs like the one that we had this evening. So thank you again for coming, and most of all, thank you for your patience with the process this evening. We look forward to seeing you next month. Take care of each other. Good night.